Yo, what's up guys? Quick video today because I have something really important that I want to talk to you about. And I think it's something that we don't really ever cover at all. Everyone goes through it, but it's so subtle that no one even usually can articulate this point well enough to talk about it. And it's the conditioning that we go through as individuals and as a culture inside of our lives, inside of this world that we're living in. Our society has conditioned us to think a certain way, to act a certain way, to complete certain tasks, to aspire to certain things. A lot of the things that you think you want right now are most likely the result of conditioning that you saw somewhere, that you read somewhere, that someone that you care about told you to do. And a lot of the things that we're doing in our daily lives aren't actually a result of things that we like or the result of things that are interesting to us, but they're the result of things we think are us but are really someone else. So conditioning is made up of three primary components, and it's domestication, self-domestication, and attachment. And I'm borrowing these terms from Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., who wrote a book called Mastery of Self, and he talks about this. So what's domestication? Domestication is any time that we're forced to feel shame or guilt or suffering or any type of negative emotion in order to provoke a result from us. Let's say, for instance, that your family is very much into the academics.
Oh, and look what I got on my science test.
Oh, an A+. There it is. Nice work, my angel.
Any family who's very focused and strict on academic performance will often associate some sort of shame or guilt or some sort of criticism attached to anything that is less than what they would deem a good result in school. On the extreme end of the spectrum, they might punish you, they might take away video games, they might restrict certain privileges, or they might just be overall mean to you if you don't get what they deem as an acceptable score in school on whatever test or whatever class you're in.
Listen, you little wiseacre. I'm smart, you're dumb. I'm big, you're little. I'm right, you're wrong. And there's nothing you can do about it.
And eventually, over time, you're domesticated because they want you to perform a certain way. And what happens? If you don't perform that way, you're punished. If you do perform in a good way, so you get a good grade, you get good remarks or good marks in school, you get rewarded. Maybe they give you a treat or some candy. Maybe they give you some extra money. Some people are given money when they get good grades in school. Not me, but some people. From an early age, we're domesticated into believing that the grade that we get at school is strongly correlated to our self-worth, and we really believe that. But what happens is, over time, our parents no longer have to domesticate us in this way because we move on to the second stage, which is we self-domesticate. And that's when we really take the domestication out of the hands of the initial people who are conditioning us, and we do it to ourselves. And a lot of times this happens unknowingly. So what happens? You get a bad grade, you don't do well in school, you feel sometimes physically ill. You will feel bad about yourself psychologically. You will downplay your abilities. You will sometimes get in your own head to the point where you lose a lot of self-confidence. And a lot of the kids who never experienced anything perfect A's, straight A's, will get their first B ever in life. Since they started getting grades, they've never gotten a B before. They finally get a B, and what happens? They lose a lot of their self-worth. I saw a lot of kids cry the first time they saw themselves get a B.
Unacceptable!
Because in a very real way, they've been self-domesticated at this point. You know, they know what their parents expect of them, and those values have been imbued upon themselves now, and so they feel bad about themselves if they don't perform at a level that's simply arbitrary. We're setting these goals and these grades as outside measurements of what should be an internal metric, which is self-worth. So we're then domesticated and then we're self-domesticated. And what happens over time is that domestication and that self-domestication turns into attachment. So what is attachment, okay? Attachment is basically the act of taking something that isn't you, something that's outside of you, and making it part of you by investing energy, or investing time, or investing emotion. You make it part of you. Precious! We see this all the time as the result of these domestications. You think about school, people then become attached to the career that they got from school, right? My grandmother was so attached to her career as an attorney. And even as she continued to go through all these various sicknesses, and she didn't have much money at the time, she would always scrape together the money to renew her bar dues every year. Bar dues are these fees you essentially pay to the state bar association to allow you to continue practicing law. Now the crazy part is when she was living in Florida, she would still pay her bar dues to the Michigan State Bar, which means she was paying her bar dues to maintain her status as an attorney in a state of law where she no longer lived and she no longer ever planned on practicing. But she was so attached to the idea that she was an attorney, and she was so domesticated through this process of having to perform at this level and having the idea of her scholastic life relating to her self-worth, that her attachment to her career as an attorney was unbreakable. And you can see how through the series of domestication and self-domestication and then the attachments that come from these things, that we often end up living lives that aren't our own. This is how we become conditioned. We end up living lives that were first someone else's dream for us and then became our own dream for ourselves, even though we never had time to think about it, and soon become an inseparable part of our identity. And so what we have to do is we have to realize when these domestications and when these attachments are forming. And this is the first part of setting ourselves free. In later videos, I'm gonna probably produce some later this week or maybe the week after, I'm gonna talk about how we can free ourselves from these attachments. But the first thing I want you to do is think about where these attachments come from, where they exist in your life. One way you can do this is start thinking about, an object or a thing or a career position or a person or even a belief. And this is very important because attachments can also be beliefs. Think about these things that you hold in your life that are really important and special to you. Think about the things that make you feel emotionally charged and good. Think about the things that make you feel more of who you are. Think about the things that you would hate to see yourself lose. It could be a gadget, it could be an item of clothing, it could be a spiritual object, whatever it is. Think about the things that you have a clear attachment to, and I want you to think about what it would be without those things in your life. And I want you to do that homework. Write in the comments below things that you are attached to. I'm so curious about this. Put those in the comments. Like this video if you did like it, hope you did. Subscribe. Love you guys, had to get this off my chest. I've been thinking about this a lot. Hope you enjoyed. Talk to you soon. Peace.